we planned everything in accordance to be listed in March 2020. For 2 years, almost 2 years, we planned everything methodically to be listed in March 2020. In fact, we got some pre-IPO offers in January 2020. And I remember calling those people in February 2020 saying that, hey, we are postponing the plan of being listed indefinitely for the time being. Something big is coming.
Welcome to X Unicorns, a podcast brought to you by Blume Ventures. Blume is one of India's premier homegrown early-stage venture capital funds. If you're asking yourself what in the world is an X-Unicorn, rewind to episode 1 where we share the origins of the term X-Unicorns. We promise it'll be worth your time. In this series of conversations, we want to look back and celebrate founders and startups that have entered and are soon entering the X-Unicorn Club. Stories of founders that have played it by their rules and taken unconventional or even long drawn-out paths to get there. In today's episode, we have Prashant Pitti, co-founder of EaseMyTrip, in conversation with Karthik Reddy, co-founder and managing partner at Blume Ventures.
It's great to have you here with us on the podcast X Unicorns, which Blume is launching this year. And it's been a long-standing idea now to have you on this podcast since we first met and discussed your journey. And would love to introduce you to our audiences today. Prashant Pitti is the co-founder of EaseMyTrip. About 14 years ago, him and his brothers I don't know if it was a garage startup, but started off somewhere and built against the odds one of India's leading OTAs today. And it's a listed company, as some of you may know. And it's been a phenomenal journey. What I want to do today is to discover more about Prashant, his journey, and some of the challenges and opportunities that he has taken into his stride and built this phenomenal company. So welcome again, and would love to start off with the trivia that maybe a lot of people don't know. So when they look at an EaseMyTrip, they're probably thinking, yeah, one more of those something trip companies, which has probably raised a whole bunch of capital, etc. And it's amazing to know that there is this company which is now publicly listed and never ever touched venture capital money. So let's go back, rewind perhaps to right to the beginning. And if you can walk us through where these beginnings started as a family, what was the business? I know you come from a business family. Why you decided that you wanted to go to an IIT? And then post that, wasn't the natural push to go and get a job? And how did that journey eventually reach the point where something called EaseMyTrip happened?
Actually, there are too many questions.
But I'm just trying to understand the Prashant Pitti of the early 2000s.
I'm happy to talk away. Thanks for having me on the show. I would also like to understand what this X unicorn means. What's the X factor over here? But yeah, grew up in a middle class family. My father has always been cold trader.
Okay.
In fact, since my 5th grade, I have been his accountant.
Okay.
I used to write his ledgers. I got into finance quite early in that sense. I actually knew which months we should celebrate and which months we should not ask for any favors from the dad.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I knew what profits and losses we were making on monthly basis. Grew up in a humble but decent upbringing. How did the IIT happen? IIT doesn't happen. For me, it was honestly speaking more of a challenge than anything else. I was pretty much into sports. And in my class, I would always be 3rd ranker or 4th ranker, never the first two. In fact, I could even go to the extent that I never even thought that I would be among the top 2 candidates. Just 3rd, 4th, always around that area. But happy with that because my main thing is sports. I used to play a bunch of sports. And
Which were your favorites?
Of course, growing up, cricket, right? But then I picked up on basketball later on.
Okay.
So I've realized that anything which is eye-hand coordination, I'm decent at, but eye-leg coordination, I suck.
Okay.
So I have this very clear understanding that I do not understand D of dance, football, none of the sports where you require eye-leg coordination, I suck at it. But anyway, so yeah, for a cricket match, I think I overheard someone say that IIT to bhul jao, hota nahi hai, to someone else, not even to me.
Okay.
Okay, what is that thing?
Yeah. And this is what, 9th grade?
No, this was 11th grade.
11th?
I had no clue, honestly speaking, I had no clue of IIT till then.
Okay.
Then I actually, without even saying anything to anybody, I just soaked up that information and I went to the nearest stationery shop, and I got a magazine to read about it. So that was my first twist with IT. I read about it over a magazine and I learned few things, and then I thought, okay, yeah, maybe I could do this. Maybe I should try. And
You were a science student.
I was a science student. So that's that. After...
And then of all places, Chennai. How did you land up to IIT Madras?
So that was also by design. Grew up in Delhi. There are ages when people go through this rebellious nature, right? Where you want to be as far away as you can be from the family. I chose IIT Madras. Like no extended family of mine would ever be able to come and visit me. I had some family in Bombay. I had some family... Kanpur is close by. So, I chose Chennai purposefully.
Okay.
I just wanted to be free, not have any relatives.
It's a 17, 18-year-old mindset.
Yes. In the hindsight, it worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only logical reason
That's
behind it.
That's fine. And then what did those years teach you? Did it tell you that you wanted to be an entrepreneur or felt there's some cool jobs out there?
So IIT Madras at that time, I don't know if it's true right now or not, had this very peculiar culture where everybody wanted to app. I don't know if you know what that word means.
Get out of the country, go abroad.
Which is basically write the GRE and do the MS. And
I'm a little older than you, so it was definitely even more prevalent then because the opportunity set was even lower.
Correct. Right. So almost 90% of Janta would want to just go abroad and do their MS and then PhD and then probably get settled. All the people, I was actually the big opponent of it. In fact, opponent of even leaving India. And look what I did. I'm going to talk about later, but for all my 4 years, I was like, we should be in India. We should build India together. We should do something about it. And then Capital One came on the first day and I was literally not planning to even sit for the interview process. But my friends said that, hey, what are the odds anyways? Everybody's going to apply and they're only going to take 1 or 2. So you might as well apply to see where you are. And
you got the job.
Yeah, I got the job.
So you went to Virginia?
I went to Virginia.
Oh, wow,
right after the campus, I went to Richmond, Virginia. And literally, I think my non-caring attitude got me that.
That's right, because you had nothing to lose. You had nothing to look forward to. You were like...
They took 20 plus interviews and I couldn't care less.
One of the most intensive interviewers in the early 2000s.
Yes, it was like very hotly contended job.
Correct.
And for me, if I were in pressure to crack that interview, I think I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
For me, it was just completely non-caring attitude. I'm just having a good time. In fact, I even remember what got me that job. So there was this one particular interview. I don't remember the entire process, but one particular interview, they presented a case study and asked us to solve it. And my observation to that case study was that this entire case study is wrong for some reasons, which I don't remember now. But they were like, what? We have been using it for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for these reasons, it is wrong. I will not answer this. This is wrong. And then we were sitting in the class cubicle. So he took that paper, he went out, he spoke to 5-6 people, and then he came back in and all he did was thumbs up. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah. All he did was just thumbs up. And
there you go.
Yeah, I thought that, okay, fine.
Standing out makes a big difference and challenging the status quo makes a difference. So it was early in your blood. In that sense. So, by the way, did you pick up any Tamil? Tamil theriyuma konjam?
Random mundanal, konjam.
Okay. So I grew up in Chennai, though I'm a Reddy born across the border in Andhra, and I did the same thing. I ran away to Roorkee. So it was
you're the other side.
Yeah, the other side, further away from Delhi, another 5 hours on a bus.
Yeah, man. It has to be a place where your relatives, your cousins, nobody can come and figure out what you're doing.
Yeah. No, it allows you to grow into a different side of yourself. And I think Abe saying it was my first exposure to people from UP, Bihar, Rajasthan, Delhi.
That was your first exposure
ever? I hadn't crossed the Vindhyas before that.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was 17, taking a 36-hour train to Delhi and then 5-hour bus.
Those train rides.
Yeah, they teach you a lot. They teach you a lot. But that's why you seem to love travel. So we'll come to that very quickly. Now, so you went to the US. So why did you come back? I know the mindset, you just expressed that there was a love for India, but when you were in the US, there's land of milk and honey. So it's a fantastic place for people who are determined to make a life for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? I spent 7 years there and you can't deny that it's a phenomenal economy.
Absolutely.
So what brought you back?
Of course, there is nothing wrong about US, which I decided to come back because it was the inner calling. After your H1B can only be renewed twice.
Yeah.
So most of the people, as soon as they get their job, they apply for the green card. I decided not to in the first year itself. There were 5 or 6 of us who all went from IIT and IIM, I believe. And I decided not to apply for my green card just because I was like very clear that this is just time in the blip right now for me. And eventually I'll have to move back to India. And then, my two younger brothers, brilliant younger brothers, they found, I'll tell you about how EaseMyTrip was born.
Yeah, please. That's
Yeah,
I'd love.
and,
How does it all connect back to now the beginnings of EaseMyTrip?
I don't know if you would remember that there was this offer which Air Deccan used to run, 1 rupee air ticket. They would run 1 rupee air ticket.
That was their offer price.
That was their
just
offer
to
price.
drive.
It's a lucky draw, and you might be the lucky one to get that 1 rupee air ticket. So my two younger brothers, they found a hack to get that 1 rupee ticket every time.
Okay.
Yeah, and that miffed Captain Gopinath for some time, where we are the ones who are getting that 1 rupee ticket every time.
Okay.
And eventually, I think we got an offer from them saying that, hey, why don't you guys manage our North India distributorship?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
That's exactly how we actually started Duke Travel Agency. Not
Yeah,
even EaseMyTrip
I was
first.
going to come to that name. Yeah, it was called Duke Travel Agency.
Duke Travel Agency. And right now, I get this question asked a lot that why did you choose travel? There were already 6 big companies who had raised tons of money. Why did you decide to enter this space?
Yeah.
It wasn't us to decide. It wasn't very well thought out plan.
Yeah.
It was like this happened, right?
Yeah.
1 rupee ticket, we found a way. Duke Travel Agency happened. Then while running Duke Travel Agency, we realized that there are a lot of pain points which travel agent undergo through and could be solved using technology. That's how the first version of EaseMyTrip happened. And then 3 years later, we decided to become a B2C company. And this is what we are now. 95% of our business is consumer.
So the brothers were hackers or like coders or mix. You joined when Duke was born or when EaseMyTrip was born?
When EaseMyTrip was born.
Okay.
So I joined about few years later.
Okay.
And EaseMyTrip, the first version, which was the B2B travel agency was running.
That's what I understood as the origins of EaseMyTrip. That you were
Correct.
solving for
the travel agent.
Various distributors in the ecosystem.
Correct.
And how did that go, or why did you think that was a good idea back then, and why did you then move
So the idea was actually very simple. Since we were ourselves a travel agent, we knew exactly what pains we were going through. The pain was very simple.
Absolutely.
That there are about 10 odd airlines at that time, and airlines demanded travel agents to put in some money in their account to be able to use them. And then in return, they'll give 3%, 4% commission. Then there's a huge capex which gets blocked. You're putting 50,000 rupees each in each airline, then you're 5 lakh capex down.
Correct.
And then you get 3-4% commission. And most of the travel agents, they are like hand to mouth guy.
That's true. It's a like small lifestyle business.
It's a very
family
small
business,
lifestyle business. So 5 lakh of capex is actually a huge amount.
It's a big number, yeah.
It's a big number. I'm talking about back here.
Somebody working with a computer at home.
7.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the first offering of EaseMyTrip was that, hey, we have connected all airline APIs. All you have to do is put 20,000 rupees in EaseMyTrip and you'll be able to book any airline ticket.
Fantastic.
And we will give you slightly better commissions than what you're getting from the airlines directly because we are aggregating bunch of.
Correct.
That was a simple offering in the hope that we will be able to aggregate bunch.
Yeah.
And hence in the hope we might approach the airlines and say, give us slightly more.
So you hit all the nails on the head. So India, value conscious economy, small entrepreneurs trying to build, tough market conditions, and you're solving for all those pain points. How did you, and going back to the miraculous story of how do you bootstrap into becoming a $1 billion listed company? What did it entail in terms of capital risk? What did the family think of this? And did you have to actually ever raise money, at least from family and friends? Or was this something that you figured out from your commission structure that you continue risking and then build and bootstrap from there?
So if you look at the history of EaseMyTrip from year 2008 till 2013, it's a public record now. The only money which we put in the first 5 forming years were about 15 lakh rupees. So it's not that we had a bunch of money.
That was the startup economy back then. You didn't have hundreds of VCs floating around.
But even then, our competitors had raised tons of money.
That's true. Because everyone believed that this model works in the rest of the world.
Correct.
So we should bet on it in India. And that's the kind of stuff that VCs tend to chase first. 15 lakhs.
15 lakhs is the amount which we put in. Only after year 2013, we borrowed some money and we put more during the hyper growth part.
Got it.
But otherwise, the company was completely built on extremely solid efficiency.
Got it.
Now, during the first 3 years, we were not competing with any of the big
We were not
OTAs,
playing the B2C game.
Yeah, we were not playing the B2C game. So that gave us the breather where we built our own technology during that time. We basically built relationship with the airline. We built the operation, the technology, everything during those 3 years.
How big would it have been back then before you launched B2C?
This primarily happened out of our home. So
you're still at home then?
Yeah. We dedicated one room, and in that room we had about 10 odd people sitting. And the first 3 years of EaseMyTrip was at our home.
It's moved from the garage to the bedroom, but it is still a home startup for 3
It was
years.
a home startup. So
Amazing. So 10 people building this for 3 years.
10, 12, I can't recollect the
that's
exact
fine.
number. Yeah,
Mota,
but
mota.
yeah, mota. 10, 12 people
Or
building it up.
Bapuji ne kya bola? Whole trader.
Honestly, all three of us never really cared about his business.
His business.
It
It was his sustenance.
It was paying the bills.
Ah.
That is what it was doing. And I don't think so. He was also very inclined for any one of us to join.
Get in there.
To get in there. He knew that there are better, bigger things for his kids to do. Be a cold trader. With all the humbleness, I could say that this is what he also wanted.
No, absolutely. We all go through that with our parents.
Yeah. 3 years of running B2B. And then
what gives you courage to think that, B2C is a game you can play and
it's just foolishness. Literally just foolishness. Because when you look back,
very important entrepreneurial trait.
yes, extremely foolishness. Because we had a clear dictative from our agents that if you turn B2C, we're going to stop using you.
Oh, is it?
We had a clear dictative from them because then it's conflicting, right? We have their customers' data and we become B2C. So in those 3 years, somehow we got the wheel rotating and the business started growing, B2B side. And then to say that we are going to halt all of it and restart again without the monies was actually nothing else but foolish. But we did that nevertheless, probably for one solid reason, which is that we could see it coming. Even though our business was growing, we knew that B2B will never be forever. Consumers will eventually want to buy directly, at least the flight path. So that vision or wisdom was very clear, and it was clear enough to make us decision which was extremely hard at that time. Our business volume fell by 50-60% as the moment we took the decision that we are going to become...
agents bargain.
Yeah, agents stop working. Agents are like, now we cannot trust you with the data because you might actually use my data. But
slide fast forward, they came back. They all trust. No, they didn't.
Of course, there is still an agency business which we run, but it's only 3-4% of our overall business. So it's just that some went, some came back, but it never became too big of a business because anyways, air ticketing for travel agency had been done over the period of time.
Correct.
So it's not a big business anyways, it's just time. So that's the nature why it continued to shrink over the period of time. Not because they did not trust us back. It's just that it wasn't a big business anyways.
Got it. So the foolishness led to the B2C experiment. You build a business of that nature profitably.
So foolishness led us to say that we will try this.
Correct.
So
to try it.
We should try it. And the idea was at that time, everybody, all our competitors was charging this extra amount, which was called as convenience fees. Now, see from our perspective, let's say if we are getting 6% commissions from the airline, we are passing back 5.5% to the travel agent.
Correct.
So we are sustaining ourselves only on 0.5%. So we have learned how to live only in 0.5%.
The DNA of the firm was already built there.
Yes. We learned to live only on 0.5% margin.
Amazing.
Now, a B2C transaction, see from our eyes, what's the need of charging anything extra? You're getting 6%, even if you give 1.5% discount to customers and you pay 1.5% as MDR, which is payment gateway charges. Then also you end up doing 3% profit. From 0.5% to 3%. It's almost 6 times the jump, right?
Yeah.
On our P&L.
Yeah. So just for clarity for listeners today, if you don't charge the convenience fee, it's not like the airline charges you. So the airline charges on their side, you charge on your side.
That's correct.
So this was something that the airline wasn't going to impose on you. So your costs were only what you pass back to the customer as a reward and the MDR.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. Coming back to...
So convenience fees, basically for the listeners as well, convenience fees comes at the very last leg. So on the front side, you will see same price for everybody.
That's right.
And then everybody has...
Right, they're checking out, they'll throw this.
It's also a multiplier of a passenger.
Yes,
so
correct. If you have 2-3 people, you have 2-3 convenience charges.
Correct. It's a multiplier of passenger. So for us, it was a no-brainer that we should not charge convenience. Our profitability for each transaction coming on B2C side was almost 6 times.
Correct. From 0.5% to 3%.
From 0.5% to 3% because we were built for 0.5%.
That's right.
So we never thought that we should charge convenience fees, and we have kept the same policy all throughout. Even till today, we allow customers to not to pay convenience fees.
You told me this. The first time we ever met, that was my aha moment. And clearly I wasn't your customer. I still probably am not. I go to airline sites and book. But it's such a fascinating thing. Small insight, but you're showing the right value proposition to a value-conscious customer.
See, I get this question asked a lot that, Prashant, if you are definitely cheaper than your competitors and in such price-conscious country like India, why are you not already number 1? Why are you number 2? If you are literally cheaper every time, the simple answer for that is that there's a delayed gratification in our case. when you see on the first page, the prices of EaseMyTrip are the same as everybody else. Only if your friend told you to stick around with EaseMyTrip and follow the 10 procedures,
Correct.
then you will see the benefit come in. That's where people falter at EaseMyTrip. They do not give us that much amount of time and space.
Yeah.
They did not in the past.
Yeah. Now, of course, it's changed.
Now it's changed. But yeah.
Super. No, great story. And then when did the takeoff moment happen? So obviously this was your consumer insight. You got into
Actually, this was not even a consumer. Insight happened in year 2014 or somewhere 15. This was mostly just the need of the hour, which is that we who are not pushing any marketing budgets cannot afford to charge convenience fees.
Fair.
That was the need of the hour.
Understood.
Now, the business grew at very modest pace from year 2011 till 14-15. We did not see ourselves grow leaps and bounds. And those were the testing years because the growth is also in the range of 10 to 15% per annum. And the business is not growing so much and we are just barely breaking even.
Yeah.
And that is when we started doubling down on it. I was sitting in a call center one time and there's this old lady who's calling to get a refund or something. So I do whatever she's asking me to, but then I check her history and she has made tons of bookings from EaseMyTrip in the last few months.
Okay.
And then I get curious and I ask her, ma'am, why have you not been using EaseMyTrip in the past? For the last 2 months, if you're using it so much, it's not that you're just traveling now. You must be traveling before as well. So she gave me this insight of what we were doing and why this became a big deal. Prashant, every time I would use some other website, the price which I see in the final prices changes, right? And I would always think that the airlines are the guys who are actually doing this malicious work, which is when you are hooked in, they increase the price. So all my life, I assumed that all my last few years of buying air tickets, I assumed that this maliciousness came from the airlines. That suddenly, quietly, some additional charge came in at the last minute because I am hooked in. I've already put in my name, email address, number and everything. But then the last transaction I had with somebody, I realized it wasn't the airlines. And I felt that's how I searched for any other company who does not add that additional charge. That was the insight that people do not want to feel cheated. Whether it is for 1 rupee or 1 crore.
Correct. It's always
the feeling of being cheated.
Yeah.
It's a
very
trusted, terrible feeling.
Yeah,
that somebody outsmarted you. You do not want that feeling to be there. And we built EaseMyTrip in such passion. There are multiple other things which we did to build upon this narrative, which was that you would experience this quite often, that actually even before the convenience fees, the flight fare changes. We have tried to reduce that as much as possible in EaseMyTrip. And I'll tell you how we were able to do that. So there is this something called as book to look ratio, which we have to maintain, which is that if there are 100 people who are visiting, who are searching for the price, at least 2 or 3 should convert because otherwise you are hitting unnecessarily on the airlines API. So airlines dictate you to maintain a decent look to book ratio. Now, in order to do that, most of the companies do a lot of caching work, which is that they do not fetch the price on the front page. And then they basically, when you go to the next page, when your intent is more clear,
then they go and fetch.
So hence the price changes.
Correct, because it's dated info.
Exactly, it's a dated info. So at EaseMyTrip, we use a very different kind of caching algorithm for which we are even applying. And because of which we have been able to do this extremely successfully. We in fact track it, that how many times our fare, we are not honoring the fare. And many a times, if the fare difference is less than 100 rupees, we don't even
just
change
absorb it.
We absorb it. We just absorb it.
Just create customer delight.
Correct. So we understood this pain in a deeper manner and we have worked very proactively on it. In fact, the other thing which we do, which might sound counterintuitive to you, is that we track how long does it take for a person to book an air ticket very actively and we reduce it. We do not want people to spend...
Yeah, it should be super fast.
We want people to spend least amount of time.
If you can get to an Amazon one click at some point, it'll be...
Correct.
Absolute delight.
So it's a part of our DRHP. About 3 years ago, our average booking time was 5 minutes and 37 seconds.
Okay.
And right now we are trailing at 3 minutes and 48 seconds or something. So we have reduced it by 2 minutes. So there are lots of hoops which people put you through so that they can take the auxiliary revenue. We don't. We do not make people go through those hoops.
Amazing insights. We can go on and on.
Yeah.
Travel is fascinating. It affects us every day, and hoping a lot of people go and check out EaseMyTrip after this. Obviously, you've done a wonderful job building all of these. You're going through this. We'll cut over very quickly to 15 to IPO and then pandemic. But last question on that prior journey. Theoretically, if you had met me and I'd said, I'll give you 1 crore or 2 at that juncture, we didn't know each other.
Which year are we talking about?
11 to 14, that era where you were bootstrapping. Did you get approached? Did you pitch people? Would you have taken the money if I gave it to you?
I did approach people in the year 2009 or 10 when I moved back to India. That's the first thing I did.
Okay.
I actually came to Bangalore.
How come no one gave you money? Usually individuals do, angels do.
We didn't approach the
We
just went to the institutions. The business was doing okay. So we just went to the institutions, and institutions were right in not giving us the money. There's nothing wrong. We exist purely because of our hustle.
Yeah. And so because you're saying, in looking back, that B2B business pitch was not as compelling.
It wasn't. They were right. And our pitch was also that we may not do this B2B forever. And then the thought process was, then you'll be too late. You already are late. Yeah, 5 guys are out there and everybody has picked their bet.
Yeah.
So then you'd be too late. Yeah. So that made even wrong. That if you were just talking about B2B.
Ab kyun karu aap?
So anyway, I met 3 or 4 guys. And then I actually
did you get any great feedback?
Like, I could tell that this is a no. In the first conversation, I could tell it's a very clear no.
Any learnings from that experience that served you better? Or
it did. The experience served me better. It definitely made us think more B2C. It definitely pushed more in the B2C side. But I remember doing this. Met 3-4 guys, and then I started meeting travelers. I might as well do some business since I'm aware.
No, you seem to be good at optimizing that. No, it's fantastic as an entrepreneur. And so then what started taking off from 15 that led to this confidence that you can continue bootstrapping and get to a scale where you eventually decided to list?
I'll talk about year 2013, 14. I think that's when EaseMyTrip was in, it wasn't in a great growth period, but we definitely needed more hands at that time. So it was just like 3 of us, and then we have call center people, and then we have tech people. This is what it is.
Correct.
All the sales, all the marketing, all the HR, all the accounting, everything is done by us, right? Hands-on.
Understood.
So that is when we felt pressed and we felt like we needed more people, like product managers, quality analysts, marketers. That was the need which we felt, but we couldn't afford people from outside because most of them were costing anywhere between 1 lakh to 2 lakh rupees a month. And we couldn't even afford thinking of those salaries. We're living on a razor margin thin, right? So this is what we did. We actually picked up the best call center guys and we trained them ourselves and we made them as product managers. We made them as quality analysts. We made them as marketers in the company. And these people are literally the backbone of the company. Almost everybody whom we graduated
is
still there. And we continue to follow this policy of graduating people from call center to other departments, which are not even relevant to what they have studied or anything.
That's fascinating. In fact, it was one of my questions. In a company of this nature where you don't have the capital to get these kind of ready-made hires, how have you built culture? How have you built an entrepreneurial nature of thinking about the company? Because a bootstrap company has to be that way top to bottom in its thought process.
Bottom to top. Yeah. I would even say that. It has to be bottom to top.
That's exactly the point. Yeah. Otherwise, it'll fail. If somebody comes with an attitude that I'm coming for a salary or I'm going to benchmark you versus another company, then you've lost half the battle already. So what have you got right on that front? Any things that you can give young entrepreneurs a lesson on in terms of how to manage when you're building this frugally? What cues?
As I said, that not everything can be done by yourself. We were surely feeling very short of people at that time.
Yeah.
And that is when we started trusting upon our people. And we realized that in the hindsight, that was one of the best decisions we have ever taken. You can easily bring people from outside, but then the people who have grown along with you, if you give them the pedestal and if you honor what they have done for you so far by giving them even a higher role and trusting upon them to deliver, they go length and breadth to give you value back. In a way, we have created the kind of relationship with them, which is unparalleled. We go to their weddings. We even do their children's namkaran, for that matter. It's those 50, 60 odd people in the company who are almost emulating founders in every department.
I've seen 1 or 2 examples of this, but this is a fascinating example of how that can be built.
Their loyalties are unshakable. That's how I would think.
This was when you were not able to dangle the promise of isme wealth creation ka path kya hai, IPO nahi hoga.
There's nothing about money over here. Of course, we incremented their salaries.
Of course.
Yeah, but it wasn't even, it's just that we were honoring with a position which should be trusted upon. So it was just the honor of giving.
So respect and career progression of a certain nature, when done thoughtfully, is like a very
autonomy, mastery, and giving people a sense of ownership.
Phenomenal long-term thinking.
It's just, I know. I would beg to differ on the long-term thinking.
Yeah.
We were just doing whatever was required. it's
fair. No, it's a good point.
Yeah, it's
now when you look back, it feels like this is what made it work.
Correct. But that time we were just doing whatever was needed.
Thanks for keeping it real and humble as always, Prashant. No, I love you for that. So growth trajectory, I'm guessing, changed, which gave you the idea that a public company बनाएंगे.
नहीं. Public company तो दूर तक भी नहीं था.
मतलब मैं कह रहा था 17, 18 तक पहुंच गया होगा.
18 onwards the public thought process came, but till 18 there was no thought process.
अब इस साइज पे आपने फंडिंग क्यों नहीं उठाया?
Yes. To answer your question, actually, 2016, 17, 18, we did get some offers.
Okay.
We did get some offers because we were growing profitably.
Decent size.
Yeah, decent size. So we did get some offers, but we were also growing at 75% per annum. Profitably.
And you know how to build profitably. So
we were doing it profitably.
Yeah.
So we were growing and we were growing profitably. Every time the offer came with a rider, which was that you'll have to use this money to grow even faster. And then we understood by then that this game is not about burn. It's an OTA. Many people forget in this industry, they focus on O part, which is online, and forget the TA part, which is basically travel agency.
Travel agent.
You are a travel agent.
Correct.
Among all the 6 OTAs in India, we are the only ones who run our own call center. Everybody is outsourced. So this is one of the big reasons why people love EaseMyTrip, because we care. We think this is the core of the business and core must be managed by yourself. And I talk about convenience piece a lot, but honestly speaking, it's probably only 20-30% of the reason why we have become what we have become. Half of the reasons I can easily attribute that we actually care. We want to deliver people their refunds back, their issues back as soon as possible. And that is why we run our own travel agent. That is why we run our own call center. And I hear this a lot that EaseMyTrip is not pixel perfect. And I think it's almost also by design. We don't want to put too much of energy in getting the O right. We want to get the TA part. People only need 2 things from travel agency. One is a great service and second, at a great price.
Correct.
There's no third thing which is required.
It's a utility at the end of the day.
It's a utility.
I need to get from point A to point B, just make my life easy.
Correct. It's a utility. It's almost a commodity. And if you treat that business in that fashion, and ensure that people get value. I will not be 100% of the time cheaper because my competitors can choose to give a lot of discount at any given point of time and be cheaper than me.
Yeah.
But I must ensure that over a long period of time, I come out cheaper at least 70-80% of the time.
That's all you can do, You can't play those games beyond it.
In fact, we do things which are quite counterintuitive many times. For example, if one of my competitor goes on burning game and increases discount from 2.5% to 4.5%, 5%, we actually reduce our discount during those times. Instead of matching it up, we reduce our discounts. We know that there are 2 sets of people. One who have become very habitual of EaseMyTrip and one who are deal hunters. Now, deal hunters are going to move even for 10 rupees.
That's right.
But the ones who trust EaseMyTrip, who value our experience, they don't care about this money.
It's rounding off errors.
Exactly. So we would rather let go of that 20% traffic and be profitable for the remaining 80%.
No, I think all hallmarks of this actually is a good segue into the question I didn't answer. So we were thinking about a lot of our Fund 1 companies remind us of you.
Oh, really?
In the sense that if they were not hot enough or sexy enough or their models were not considered theoretically sustainable or large, they were just passed over. So, ठीक है, हमने पैसे दे दिया उससे, but unicorn थोड़ी बने. So they were passed over. And you have 2 choices. You say, oh, I roll over and act dead, or I basically figure out life without venture money. And a lot of them started doing the latter thing. And so suddenly in the last 2 years, we've had a resurgence of Fund 1 all 11 to 14 vintage.
11 to 14 vintage.
Okay. That's when we built Fund.
Okay.
Exotel, WebEngage, IDFI, Zopper, Carbon Clean Solution. Name them, Purple.
WebEngage, recently,
all these companies are
in those times. Back then.
Okay. And so then we said, can't be that only our founders are doing this. And that's why you're here with us today. And then we started thinking about why aren't these stories better told? This path that you were talking about, just throw money at the problem, buy the growth, accelerate the O of the online businesses, and then somehow find yourself at a theoretical $1 billion valuation. I say theoretical because it's in the domain of private funders to claim that it is $1 billion. Can you subject it to public scrutiny? Arguably not, as the harsh market today is showing you. And today, the companies that have built the hard way are essentially, in our view, the equivalent of the X comes from the idea, it's borrowed from X-Men, X-Women equivalent. Right? So you look like a freak. Sorry to use the word, but this is the reality. That's what people think of the X-Men movie franchise, right? So ordinary humans think of them as freaks. They say, this guy should be controlled, right? He has these powers that are not suitable for normal people to hang around with, right? And you see the superpower that can be used for if it's harnessed well. And I think our intent was to champion that. And it became a narrative in our head. We want to celebrate our Fund One resurgence. It became, as you saw, T-shirt. It became our slogan for this year's Blume Day. And then we said, that's all fine, but we should go back to the stories that were written by these entrepreneurs and highlight them. And so
that's how the
podcast came. And it was inspirational enough, I think, to become the first podcast series ever that Blume has produced. And once again, thanks for being a part of that story. So I think, and maybe cut back to that point. And so we also wanted to challenge this fundamental definition of unicorn. I know you call yourself that, but if you go by the strict definition that Eileen Lee put out in 2013, when the term was first coined, it was a venture-backed company less than 10 years old, which was in the private domain and had reached $1 billion. It was actually all of this.
There's a combination of three things.
So when you actually go and look at our 100 plus unicorns, about 20, 30, 40 of them will fail the test. As one of these qualifiers. It doesn't matter. That's the whole point. Point of this podcast is doesn't matter. It mustn't matter. So all this is jargon, right? What is that journey? What is that story? And if you want to celebrate entrepreneurship, which is why we should exist at one level, right? As much as we're VC and PE, fundamentally what you're backing, and you say founder first and you say founders are great and we want to back those journeys. And if you're doing venture, you're doing it from the get-go. You're not cutting in the journey after Prashant's become a public company. That's Fidelity and some big boys. Right?
That's
a different game. So we want to be able to say that there are other inspirations, not the guy who pays a fresher 25 lakhs, but the guy who built the company with 15, Prashant Pitti, right? And so I think and his brothers, of course, giving credit to your whole family, build this business. So I think it's a narrative we very strongly feel. And we're doing what we love as a brand. And this is the Blume brand for you. By the way, our journey, the reason I think we're very emotional about this is the Blume journey is very similar too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's a 100 crore fund, which looks like nothing today. That's how we started. We cut 1 crore checks at an average of 8-10 crore valuations, 60-70 times in 4 years. And those journeys are what are mushrooming today.
And those people must have put your faith in you over and over again.
Yeah. And so we've grown. It's come at the back of these star entrepreneurs. Because if without their track record...
No, but it's you also identifying them.
Yeah. So we're celebrating all of that a little bit today. So now, at what point why did you think you needed to go public? Was it as an end state for all the people who went with you on the journey? Or it was just a natural point where you said, look, I'm going to run this business forever. I want that mindset for listeners, right? When does the entrepreneur think, should I sell this business? Should I build this for posterity? This is getting boring. Should I do other things? Or should I just put professional management and run the business? The business is a business. It will run without me or with me.
And honestly speaking, business should get to that place. Where founders should graduate.
Absolutely.
There needs to be a time. And it's actually very hard for founders as well to delegate and let professionals run it. Every journey is a different journey. 0 to 1 is different. 1 to 10 is different. 10 to 100 is different. And 100 to 1000 is whole another game. For example, we have hired some professional CXOs, right? And for the first time, we were one of the main sponsors for the Asia Cup, right? That kind of money I wouldn't be able to spend myself as an entrepreneur. I come from a very frugal mindset. We build the company on almost scrapping through, right? Yeah. You wouldn't be able to take these calls by yourself because I still am living in those times.
Yeah, your head doesn't change that.
It doesn't change that fast, that frequently. Even though the numbers are growing, we have done 100 crore profit. It still does not change the frugality or the nature. The efficiency, frugality is almost equivalent to the culture, according to me. And it's extremely hard to change over the period of time. I'm glad that we have hired some professionals and they're helping us steer through the new challenges which we are facing at this moment and grow along with it. But I think whether to sell your company, whether to hand it over to professionals, whether to do an IPO, it's very individual as a call. Depends on what
There's no prescription
There's no prescription to it. And it also depends on what your end goals were anyways.
That's correct.
So for us, it was the primary reason why we did IPO was we knew that we will get tremendous amount of being listed in India. We might have gotten slightly better valuations by being listed in the US at that time. Things have changed now. That's a separate story.
Correct.
But at that time, we had an option to get listed in US, but that was never the thought process to begin with. The thought process was that we knew why some people are not using it. And I'll explain more. So even if you knew that you're saving 300 rupees per passenger on convenience fees, you might still choose to not use EaseMyTrip because you have never seen us advertise. You have never heard about it before. And it's a high GMV product. You'll have to pay 6,000 rupees upfront. and then you'll be able to save 300 rupees, right?
Yes.
So we knew that there's some bounce off which is happening even at the place where they've seen the convenience fees not kick in.
Understood.
And we realized that's the trust factor which we could do something about it. And we found by the virtue of being listed, we could cash upon it without having to spend money on marketing.
That's right.
So this was the origination of the thought that, hey, what if we become a listed company? And first time when that word came out of one of our mouth,
Yeah.
we're like, what?
This was what, 17, 18?
This was somewhere in early 18.
Understood.
Early 18. Yeah. It was unfathomable at that time. But
it's a daunting thought for all startup founders today. Yeah.
So that's how the origination came. And then it accumulated to why we should do it. Firstly, we never knew what value had we created for ourselves.
Yeah.
Since it was bootstrapped, we did not know.
You don't know what evaluation.
What value have we created for ourselves, for our team, for everybody?
That's right.
So a benchmark would be great. A benchmark which does not force us to burn money would be even better.
Even better. Right?
Even better. So these were the thoughts by which we decided upon going public early 2018. But we had a very clear roadmap of being listed somewhere in the year of 2020.
So timing wise, it was a little off.
So I'll tell you a funny story around it.
Yeah.
We planned everything in accordance to be listed in March 2020. For 2 years, almost 2 years, we planned everything methodically to be listed in March 2020. In fact, we got some pre-IPO offers in January 2020. And I remember calling those people in February 2020 saying that, hey, we are postponing the plan of being listed indefinitely for the time being. Something big is coming. Because
you can see the trends first as a travel company.
As a travel company as well. China was happening. Italy started to happen
That's right.
at that time. Initially, your thought process is that as the country, right, not just as a travel company, you do not want to accept that something big is going to happen to you or your country.
You're in denial for some time.
You are in denial. You're seeing people die in China on the TV. You're like, oh, wait, this is not going to happen in India. This is just one geography limited issue. So you are in denial. That happened in the month of January.
That's right.
We are in the process of listing, so we are in denial. But then when Italy happened, we're like, okay, no, this is going to go everywhere. And we did the right thing of being proactive and calling on the investors
very
ourselves.
Prescient. Yeah, you would have lost a lot more time, bandwidth, capital, trying to run that process for any longer.
And then since we proactively reached out and we told them we are going to delay, a year later when we went back to them.
A lot of respect.
Yes. So we got very good buy-ins.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And so did business suffer? Did your confidence get shaken given how tough that first year of the pandemic was in a travel perspective?
So business fell close to half in terms of volumes, in terms of everything. We did a business of about 4,300 crores in FY20. For FY21, it was 2,200 crores.
Understood.
So yes, definitely there was a lot of business loss, but we did not lose on the profitability side.
Nice.
We managed to remain profitable at the same level or even better during this process.
Yeah.
Did a bunch of things which helped them get there. But then eventually we came out stronger. In fact, I think many people ask us that what if pandemic happens again? My response is that it's not bad for you. The reason is that resilience.
It was tested and you came out shining.
Yeah. So our unit economics allows us to even lose 1/4 of our business and be okay. While it might not be true for my competitors who are already in losses. So it only puts us in better position whenever the spark clears up.
What was the March 22 number? How big have you grown now?
So we did, our profit after tax for FY20 was somewhere around 33 crores. For FY21 was 61 crores.
Oh, nice.
And for FY22 was 107 crores.
On the top line of?
Top line of FY22 was 3,700 crores. However, for the first half year of this year, we have crossed that top line off.
Oh, wow. Revenge travel is back. And so EaseMyTrip is gaining really. Super, super. That's fantastic. Wishing you a lot of luck for the rest of the year and so many years beyond that. So public happens. How was that experience? Because of this phenomenal bootstrap journey, I'm guessing your team must have got something out of that journey.
They did.
You still own, as the family, 75% of the business.
That is correct.
It's fascinating. Where do you see the three of you 5 years from today? If you had to?
We have discovered something very recently. And we are super excited about that part, which is to grow internationally. We recently started our Dubai operation, which is EaseMyTrip.ae.
Yeah.
Which is basically you can pay in dirhams, local airlines, right?
Yeah, localize the site. Actually.
Localize the site.
Yeah.
Launch it over there. So we did that about 6-7 months ago. And the results have been nothing less than miraculous.
That's when we met, and you said, "I just did this on. I'm trying to try this on a whim."
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's bizarre that fun fact, by the way, for the audience is that we met for the first time thanks to Mr. Piyush Goyal.
Yes, in February 2022,
who took both of us along with 20 other people on a delegation.
That's correct.
To the Middle East, and so we have to thank the minister for that.
For making us meet.
But
yeah, during that time, we were setting up the office. And in April 2022, we launched the website. Now, I'll tell you what's happening, why there's tremendous amount of growth without spending money on marketing, which is coming. So worldwide, it's not just India phenomena. I would say almost all OTAs depend on getting some money from the consumer. Just the money they get from the airlines is not sufficient for them to run their businesses.
Correct.
Which is why everywhere there is a format of convenience fees, which is charged.
Okay, it's not an Indian phenomenon.
It's not the Indian phenomenon. In India, the convenience fees is anywhere between 300 rupees to 600 rupees.
Yeah.
In Middle East, it is anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 rupees. I'm saying in rupees.
Oh.
In US, it's anywhere between 800 rupees to 1,200 rupees.
$10,
in Europe,
$15.
In Europe, it's anywhere between 1,500 rupees to 3,000 rupees per passenger.
Wow.
So it's a huge amount of money which consumers pay. Now, just try to see the kind of cost arbitrage we have over here.
You're now becoming the Bezos of this space. Your margin is my opportunity.
Your margin is my opportunity. Absolutely. So over here, the entire operations we are running from India, the entire tech we are going to run from India, the only thing which we have to do is launch locally. We are sowing the right seeds. We are in no rush. Just the way we grow our business in India, we are in no rush to grow our business.
That's the beauty of building the business the way you have. There is nobody to feel artificially accountable for.
Correct.
And now you're public. People can buy and sell what they believe is the future of EaseMyTrip.
For us, we are just sowing the right seeds and we are looking forward to see where it takes us. But then definitely, theoretically speaking, there's a huge value waiting out there for us to grab.
What is the approximate market cap, of EaseMyTrip today?
I don't know the number, but today about 8,000, 9,000 crores.
I'm just thinking this is a path to theoretically be growing 10x from here, right? And
this is where we believe. See, India, we are growing. Of course, we are growing. We're looking forward to become the number one travel company. But then there are other growth avenues which we have identified.
Super. No, this is great. So a couple of fun questions and then we'll get to the rapid fire section. Because I know family is kind of toyed with the idea of producing some Bollywood cinema. And how's that experience been? How's that different from? Is it just fun or is it like something we can expect the Pitti brothers to be doing for a long time?
So actually, we got into this because of EaseMyTrip.
Okay.
We actually never produced. It's more of a financing role where we have lent money to the producers who give us the co-founder title very graciously.
Okay.
But the idea is primarily to fund right before they are able to launch and then get that money principal back, but get the EaseMyTrip branding within.
Understood.
This is how it started.
Yeah.
And dabbled with it for some time and then stopped.
Okay. So it was an experiment.
It was an experiment.
Okay. And then, as my colleague Disha put it, this is like a meta episode because you've been interviewing unicorn founders before we started interviewing them. I know you do it on FM. What triggered that? How's that experience been?
So much of learning.
That's what I thought first thing. Amazing learning, as I am doing today for myself.
It's extremely humbling experience. I've done almost 20 episodes by now, and to learn from each one of them, I actually take notes as we're speaking. The way it happened was I just met the CEO of Red FM at a dinner party, and we said that let's do something together. Let's do something together. And the idea just came about that let's create an IP together where we can get the unicorn founders on the radio. This show basically goes all across India, 68 cities, on an average get heard by about 11 lakh to 18 lakh people per episode.
People don't realize when they're making a social conversation at a dinner party, tell something to an entrepreneur is dangerous. Casual remark nahi karo.
Yeah, you cannot be casual. We are going to hound you afterwards.
I'm glad that dinner conversation happened and the country is better for the enthusiasm that you've shown. And hopefully our listeners will enjoy the series as well. Shall we move to the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do it.
We've had a standard set of questions just to understand how each entrepreneur thinks. What would you order for your last ever meal?
Yeah, so anybody who knows me knows that answer.
Okay, clearly I don't know you well enough
it's
until today.
Bhature.
Oh, it's Chole Bhature. So that'll be a date someday in Delhi with,
Yes,
with
we
you.
must.
Yes,
I'll tell you that I've done something special around it, okay? I have marked the best chole bhature walas in Delhi NCR region.
Really?
And, on
your own
Google
map?
Maps.
On your map?
On the Google Maps. And I have created a system by which if I'm around, I get a ping so that I can eat those if I'm around that area.
Nice, very nice.
That's my love.
And it's shareable? Can I borrow that list?
Sure, we'll do that.
Let's do that.
I don't know if you share the same love with chole bhature, but yes.
Too many foods for me to be healthy, but yes, chole bhature is also a favorite. Current book that you're reading or a favorite book of all time, something that's memorable in your journey?
It's hard to say any one particular book as the memorable one, but what I'm reading right now is the Nike
great
Founder story.
storytelling.
It's a great story. It's an amazing learning.
You should write your own version of
No, I don't think so. I'm entitled to do that right now. But
at some point. That's an epic story for where he wrote the story and where he left the story.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's
I
amazing.
Come to that last part yet.
Yes.
I'm in the middle of it right now and I'm loving it.
I'm actually curiously wearing the villain of the story, which is Onitsuka. So I own a lot of Onitsukas, which is kind of ironic, but I love the book. My daughter got the non-adult version or the teen version of it. She loved it. Right. That was the hallmark of great entrepreneurial storytelling. For an 11-year-old.
She's 11
now she's 14, but the book came when she was 11.
And she read it that time.
And she loved it.
Wow.
And she said, I want to read the adult version. And then I gave her that book. Anyway, best piece of advice you've gotten you?
It's hard to remember. Was it an advice or was it? I remember what I go by, but somebody did say this. At least in my distant memory, I think that somebody has said this and that's how I picked it up.
Yeah.
Which is that I'm usually more curious than cautious. I've learned this part of life where failing is not a problem. It's actually only a pivoting stone. And the problem is just being too cautious. In fact, I had to train myself not to be too cautious. Coming from IIT, I think one of the big things which most IITians carry with them is the risk aversion. I studied too much to get into IIT for 2 years. So my fate was that I was trying to be risk averse. In the initial part of my career, I was actually mostly in analysis paralysis. And I would overthink, and kill the enthusiasm for whatever was coming.
Understood. No, super. I think great advice for a lot of youngsters out there. And similarly, since you've taken those risks and shied away from caution eventually, what would be probably your favorite failure and what did you learn from it?
I've done a couple of startups besides EaseMyTrip.
Okay.
And one of them got sold, but one of them didn't do well. One of them got shut by Facebook.
Okay.
It was doing too well, because of which it got shut by Facebook. But the learning over there was that never build on somebody else's platform. Never build on somebody else. I ran a dating, you would call that as a dating app. We never called it as a dating app, but now in the hindsight, I can say it was primarily used for dating purposes.
It was built on Facebook.
It was built on Facebook, and we got to a place where we were growing 3 million new users.
Wow. What is it called? Sorry?
Near growth. And the entire growth came from Philippines and US.
It happens because these tend to be like you have to create a critical mass in a microgeography.
You have to have the
suddenly
density.
Two geographies pick up.
Yeah. So there were two geographies, US and Philippines. We were growing at this happened only for about a year. It was only 1.5 year journey. We were growing 5,000, 10,000 new users per day. Everything is cool. Facebook is cool. But then suddenly we spiked up. We started seeing 3 million new users a day. Happened for a week. Facebook shut us down.
Of course, a witty.
Yeah.
Same story. I didn't realize yours was a very similar story. And I know you spoke about 2 or 3 fantastic customer moments, which is kind of at one level why you come to work, to delight customers. Any one which you want to recount beyond what you chatted about?
At EaseMyTrip, we are offering this service to consumers, which is basically get the full medical refund in case of any medical emergency.
This is during the pandemic.
This is happening now.
But now also.
This is happening even till today.
Okay.
So it's built into the system. You don't have to pay anything extra.
Okay.
Just use EaseMyTrip.
Okay.
And God forbid there is any problem health related, just upload doctor's prescription.
So has it always been there as a pandemic innovation?
This was a pandemic innovation, but we are continuing.
Super.
So this was actually a pandemic. The reason was to bring people back to travel. This is why we started this service.
Understood.
So just upload doctor's prescription and the money which we deducted or airlines deducted, we'll give it back. Even the money which airline deducted, we'll give it back. Very recently, there was this couple who were supposed to fly on their honeymoon, but then the husband broke his leg, and because of which they couldn't fly. Okay. And he uploaded the doctor's prescription and then they wrote a thank you email because we gave the money. And they're like, We have never flown before, and this was the first time we were ever going to fly because it's
Really?
honeymoon, right? It's honeymoon. They were going to fly for the first time. And that thank you email was pretty touching. It was just like
No, this is
realizing,
what you live for.
yeah,
These stories are always touching and kind of what you live for. This has been fantastic. Thank you for a wonderful hour of your life shared with us and our audiences.
a pleasure is all mine.
Thanks, Prashant. It was an absolute pleasure to host you. Thanks, everyone, for checking out X Unicorns. This podcast is a Blume Ventures offering. We'll be releasing a new episode every Tuesday. Our sound engineer is Shrey Tiwari. Our producer is Vedant Naik of Manic Pod Studios. And until next time, see you. Cheers.